Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Miller Talk podcast. Today, we are talking to Jesse, who I met on X. You can find him at Jesse Dornfeld. He is a Christian Trump supporter, just like I am. Would you like to introduce yourself, Jesse?
Sure. I'm a Christian. My faith was really made alive by a pretty spectacular event, at least in my mind, in August of 2018. And it's been, I've been on fire for God ever since then. Just as you mentioned that I was a Trump supporter, I am a Trump supporter, but cautiously, you could say, because I'm not fully on the right wing side of things. I'm more center right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I did vote for Trump. Okay, so I did vote for the guy.
Yeah.
But the way I like to say it is, my vote for Trump was a vote against Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Because she is horrible, and she would just drag our country into the ground in no time flat. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's about where I am. I mean, the more stuff that happens, I feel like I'm getting pushed further to the right, but I'm more of a centrist, moderate type person. Definitely not extreme on really anything. So.
Yeah, and I'm like, for example, when it comes to the ICE raids, like, I don't really know where I stand on that issue. I'm not against them. I'm not really for them. I'm just kind of in this really weird middle place, because on the one hand, yes, people are definitely here illegally. And on the other hand, you have reports, and I don't know if I can trust these reports or not. I haven't looked into it myself, but you have reports of like U.S. citizens being, put to a different country. And it basically, the way it gets talked about by the left is that it's this really sloppy thing, that ICE is this really sloppy thing, that they're not really being tightening down the screws of like, what's going on, how careful are they being, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And do I think that do I believe in open borders? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But how much of should we let people in? And that's another topic.
Yeah. So I'll say that what you said it's a half truth. Like, yes, American citizens are being deported, but these are people who came here probably legally and got their citizenship, but then they've committed crimes that have caused them to lose their American citizenship and be deported because of it. So it's only a half truth.
Sure. Yeah. And honestly, one person says this, another person says that. And so, and I know you can't just be totally in the middle on every issue, because that's not a wise position to take either. I'm just saying, I haven't personally like looked into it that much. So I'm just kind of uneducated and kind of like, well, I don't really know what the truth is for this particular issue. But that's just one issue, The other stuff, that Trump wants to stop the religious harassment against Christians. I think that's A+ for that.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to a guy earlier today, Dr. Michael Brown, and he was basically saying there are a lot of policies that Trump has done that have been beneficial for our society. On the other hand, he's got a big mouth. And I think that's just kind of plainly obvious, that he just has a big mouth. And this is kind of what gets put on the news, because he's got a big mouth. And so they don't see the policies, because they're so anti-Trump that they it's like they can't say Trump has done anything good
Mm-hmm.
because he's got a big mouth. That seems to be what seems to be going on there in some respects.
Yeah. Usually, when you get in debates about Trump with people who don't support Trump, they usually just attack his character and things like that. Like he has a big mouth. A lot of the things he says, some of it's funny, some of it I get, some of it I'm like, that was unnecessary. But that's
Yeah,
also that's
exactly.
what comes with freedom of speech. Is I mean, he's allowed to say that. Now, can we say like, yeah, he's the president of the United States and he should hold himself, to a higher degree and be more respectful or what you like
Yeah,
more professional when he speaks? I mean, yeah,
yeah,
but
right. Yeah, I get that. I really get that. Um, but like just some of the quotes, that Dr. Braun was reading from Trump, it's kind of like he's just name calling, and
yeah,
like I just think, okay, so whether or not it's true, and I'm not downplaying the truth part of it, but is there a gentler way that you could say it? Is
mm-hmm,
kind of my thinking. Like, is there like a is there like a not as provocative way you could possibly say that would not be intending to offend a bunch of people? But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, some of the stuff is just kind of funny, and he is a huge troll. I get that. Um, and he loves to troll the left, and
mm-hmm,
um, that's just Trump, right? So,
yeah,
when you vote for a person, for president, you vote for the person. You vote for their policies, but you also vote for the person. So it's a both and, in my opinion. And I voted for him, right?
yeah,
So I
mm-hmm,
think the good outweighs the bad when thinking about voting for Trump. So I voted for him, you know?
mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't see any way that. Well, so originally I voted for him the first time he ran, and then I wasn't able to vote in 2020 because I thought I'd be off of work in time to vote, but so I didn't go in the morning, and then I wasn't able to get off work in time, and so I wasn't able to vote. But I voted for him again this time, and
Okay.
mostly because the same reason I definitely wasn't going to vote for Kamala Harris. But originally, it was probably like 2022, 2023. I heard RFK was running, and that's who I was going to vote for. But then
Mm-hmm.
RFK joined his campaign, and then he
Right.
was shot. And so at that point, I was like, I definitely am going to vote for him.
Yeah, let's talk about him getting shot, because I do think this is a mark of God's favor. I think this is an
Mm-hmm.
act of God. I really do.
Yeah.
Because it's so improbable what happened. Like, we're talking so improbable that he turned his head at just the right time or whatever. And I tell this to my quote unquote, liberal Christian people, progressive Christians, and they usually don't say anything at all, you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, you claim to be a Bible believing Christian, and yet when there's like this thing that happens that just seems to me completely undeniable, that God saved his wife. Yes, it's tragic that another person died because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the fact that he was spared and he got what, just very minor damage. I mean, his
Yeah.
ear, like, who cares? So
Yeah.
like, I just see that and I go, okay, that is pretty spectacular. But even then, I'm going to tell you something. I
Okay.
was going to vote third party.
Mm-hmm.
Even after Trump got shot, I was thinking, well, I don't know. But then I found out I think it's the American Solidarity Party that I was going to vote for. I found out that they were more or less a socialist
Uh,
party.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, they do have a lot of Christian values that I stand for, but this one thing, it's not much better than Kamala. So what's the point? So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of tipped the point where I was like, okay, I'll vote for Trump now. I took a
Yeah.
picture of my vote, right? You can do
Mm-hmm.
that in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because everything got scrubbed. Like they went to the guy's house and they scrubbed the place. And then he was cremated and there was no autopsy done or anything. So we don't know if he was on some kind of drugs or what. I think there was
I'm
a
sorry, who are you
manifesto.
talking about?
The shooter, the guy that shot Trump.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, as to what you were saying though, is it was definitely miraculous. And I still like that's one of those things that you'll just remember pretty much forever. Just where you were. And I remember I just was about to clock out from work and my wife called me and was just like, Trump's been shot. And I was like, what? And I pulled my phone out and got on X immediately. And I was like, oh my God. Found out it was just in the ear that he was pretty much okay. And I was like, wow. But then I don't know what happened there because supposedly it was a failing. The Secret Service supposedly was leaning on the local police department to cover that roof, but then it got decided that there was too much of a slope, so they couldn't cover it. And then a Secret Service agent had him in the sights before he ever even shot. And the local police department that was helping secure the event, a guy had seen him climb up on the roof, so he followed him up. But then I guess he turned around and it scared the officer, so he literally fell off the roof. And so then he was able to take the shot. And we still don't know a lot about what happened. So I get when you hear the people on the left saying like, "Oh, it was faked or something." I can get why you would think that, but at the same time, I don't think, as bad as you might say Trump is, I don't think he's so terrible of a person that he would have his own followers, voters, constituents shot to win him an election.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
plain ridiculous. You know, like people don't do that. They don't organize to have their own people taken out unless they're like a fascist or a communist or like whatever dictatorship. And they feel that their power is being encroached upon, and then they're like, well, I better take this guy out or he might take my place. Like, rational people do not take out their own, you know?
No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing's weird because I don't know if we're ever going to get any more information on it. Unlike the shooting that just happened with Charlie Kirk's assassination, we have like everything except for the manifesto because he told his boyfriend to destroy it before anyone could get to it.
Right. Yeah, and you know, so well, he's probably going to die, which I think is just. I hope he finds Jesus, but I also hope that he, faces a firing squad or something like that. Like justice got to be done. So, in the story of Jesus, right? Right. With Jesus, it's kind of like you have the punishment and you have the grace at the same time, because Jesus, somebody had to pay the price, right? Somebody had to pay the price for our sin. And so you have this beautiful representation in the Bible known as substitutionary atonement, which is where Jesus takes our place. He literally is in the place that we should be when he's, if you've seen the Passion of the Christ, that's about what it was like. I know people think it's really exaggerated, but it's not. It's like pretty realistic in what that movie depicts is what happened to Jesus. So you watch this movie and you go, holy cow, I can barely watch this. I mean, I watched it when I was younger, and so it may have had more of an impact on me that way. But it was gruesome. Like they would whip them when they would scourge them. They would
Mm-hmm.
basically whip them until their intestines started to show through
Yeah.
their back and through their stomach.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much they would whip them. So, I mean, they would bring them to the edge of death, basically.
Yeah.
And that's why they call it the 39 lashes, is because if you whipped them 40 times, it was thought that they would die. But that's just, turn of phrase. It's not
Yeah.
like there's a magic number. And they
Mm-hmm.
probably whipped Jesus way more than 40 times.
Oh yeah.
But that's just, the way they said it. And you have Paul, Apostle Paul, what did he have that done to him like 5 times?
Mm-hmm.
It says that in the Bible in 2 Corinthians. You just can't even believe the bravery and the balls that Paul had to just keep going.
Oh yeah.
You would think, okay, so that really hurt, like really, really, really hurt, and I'm gonna do it again. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's mind bending, the kind of courage that Apostle Paul and all the apostles really had, um, because their claim was different. We claim based on the evidence that we know that Jesus rose from the dead, but their
Mm-hmm.
claim is different because they actually saw him.
Yeah.
They actually saw the risen Jesus from the dead. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really something.
Yeah. Just to like put it in perspective, like crucifixion was the punishment for the lowest of the low of people in Rome at the time. And so they
Yeah,
thought Jesus was basically nothing to anybody. And they crucified him. And whenever they did that, I mean, something I learned recently was they always, usually when you see the depictions of it, Jesus is usually wearing like a loincloth. But from what I
right.
know,
Yeah.
they did it, you were completely naked up there on the cross.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and then when they would
And
crucify women, they would crucify them backwards for sexual pleasure.
oh man, that
Mm-hmm.
is horrible. Oh my gosh. How sick can a oh my gosh. That's really disturbing. That is
Yeah.
disturbing on a crazy high level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. And then they would even sometimes crucify children too. Did you know that?
No, I actually didn't.
Yeah, they would do that occasionally. So when Nero was, putting someone on a cross while he puts them on fire, some children were in that position. And that's another really sick thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There we're seeing bad times right now, but it's nothing like
Oh yeah.
that, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
Crime.
we're still not that bad.
Mm-hmm. Crime and violence might be like on a rise right now. It's hard to tell because some agencies aren't reporting it correctly and everything like that. But if you actually look at a graph of like crime and violence from even you would say the time of Jesus to now, it's been a very stark decline. We are in the most peaceful society that has ever existed.
Yeah. With the exception of, you had the two world wars and
Mm-hmm.
abortion, of course, which is basically the Holocaust of our
Oh
time.
yeah.
No exaggeration there.
Yeah. I mean, they had
Um,
abortion in
because
Rome.
go
The
ahead.
they except for they wouldn't do it like we do. They would literally have a baby and be like, I don't want this, so they would throw it in the trash. And then the Christians would come
Right.
along and pick them out of the trash and adopt them.
Right. Yep. Or, Molech, they would sacrifice their
Mm-hmm.
children on the arms or the hands of Molech that were like these red hot uh, iron hands that they would put the baby in, and then they would play the drums so loud so that it would drown out the
Yeah.
noise of the baby crying. and they did this for their crops. Well, it's the same thing that they're doing today. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't afford a baby right now. Well, then you're putting your own well-being above the offspring that you have inside you, you know. So
Yeah. And I
it's the
mean,
same thing.
yeah, it's literally the same thing that's been going on since then, because people used to think that babies couldn't feel pain up until they were, when people say you're conscious, around 5 years old, when you really start forming memories you can recall.
Oh boy, really?
And so they used to, they would do surgeries on babies with no anesthetics or, what they had back then to numb
Oh
pain or
boy.
anything. So it's the same thing now. They say the babies in the womb can't feel pain and they're not conscious. And so then it's okay.
Well, I've heard figures like 8 to 12 weeks in the womb, they can feel pain.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they can feel it, because when does the brain develop? I can't remember. It's pretty early on.
Well, it doesn't, you don't even need the brain to feel pain. All you need is the nerve endings, right? Really, right?
Yeah.
And your heart starts beating at 7 weeks. So,
yeah. I'm sure there's some level that they're aware, and because by the time a baby's born, it can recognize its mother's voice, its father's voice, whoever talks to it. If you play songs to it, sing to it, whatever, while it's in the womb, when it comes out, it will recognize that stuff. So,
right. Well, I think kids are so amazing because they just learn so fast. It's like you can tell them how you did something one time and they will just like remember it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to be told like 3-4 times before it gets stuck in my head, before I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's how you do it. Like and just their learning curve is so crazy, because you think a child coming out of the mother and they're talking at 2 years old, they have to learn language in 2 years.
Yeah, I think, usually English, it's around 2 to 3 years. But then there's even, I think, like Spanish is a little easier to learn. So I think even then, some of them start talking around 1 years old.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
They might say mama, dada, like even in English, they might say those are often the first words or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's remarkable.
It's an amazing
how
thing.
fast. Yeah, it is. And I just had a surgery recently. I had my gallbladder taken out.
Oh,
and I'm just so thankful that God gave us bodies that can heal themselves. When you really think about that fact, it's just incredible what do you mean our bodies heal themselves? And we're supposed to believe that this happened by chance. It's like, what chance? What chance did this develop by its own? Out of all the millions of different ways that it could have developed, and the thing that it does is heal itself. It's like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. The human body is amazing.
Yeah. I studied medicine for a short period of time when I was in high school. I wanted to be a doctor, but by the time I became a senior, I just wanted to be like a nurse. And so then I went to college, but I realized a semester into college that the whole thing was like a scam and I didn't like it. And so I ended up dropping out of that. But I studied it for a little bit, and it's miraculous. And I kind of still study it, but not like in that fashion. And the brain in particular is very interesting to me. Like neuroplasticity, which is what allows us to learn. And everyone used to say that like by 21, your brain was fully formed. And then recently now people are saying, oh, by 25, your brain is fully formed. But now studies are showing that our brain never stops growing and reforming through neuroplasticity. It allows your brain to really reform connections you know, and and then just when you look at the brain itself, it's basically just about 5 to 8 pounds of jello with electricity in it. And that's about what it is.
Right.
And it does all these amazing things. And then sometimes it messes up and there's some weird things that happen. But just the fact that I'm able to talk to you, you can hear it, process it, and then respond to what I said, that's just wild.
Yeah. I mean, communication, right? Because we've become, or I shouldn't say we've become, I should say we are so sophisticated when it comes to language, you know, that God created us that way to be able to speak and communicate, and not only just non-verbally, but also verbally. Like that's amazing in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I was listening to someone, I think it was William Lane Craig. Don't quote me on this because I don't know for sure if it was
Okay.
him. But it was something like, if you go by evolutionary standpoint, the time that it should have taken humans to develop the way we are, that the sun would have burned out 8 times.
Wow.
So I thought that was an amazing thing to hear. And this was
Yeah.
William Lane Craig, who believes in theistic evolution, that said that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, it's either that God is guiding the process or that God just made different kinds, as it says in the Bible. And that's my
Mm-hmm.
view. But I still hold to an old earth, right?
Yeah.
So I believe in intelligent design, like Stephen Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that guy. He's very sharp and he has very good arguments, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so my view is that God created, there's adaptions over time for certain genetics or whatever,
Yeah.
but you don't get new information from those genetics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you can't add additional information to the genetics. And that's the interesting thing, because all that evolutionists really have is like the archaeology and like the similarities between bone structures and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like that's how do you know that God didn't just set it up a certain way to where this is the best way things function with five
Yeah.
digits or something like that? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I don't, obviously, you're like taught evolution in school, but ever since I was taught it, I've kind of like questioned it. And
uh-huh.
at this point, I'm pretty sure, like, not pretty sure, I know it's like wrong, but I just haven't figured out how to explain it yet. But the way I kind of see
Sure.
it is that we as humans, we are primates. We are like a type of monkey. That doesn't mean we
Right.
came from monkeys. The way I like to see it is that when God was creating things, maybe he created the monkey first and then was like, well, that didn't work out. So then he created a different type of monkey, or then he created this or that, and then finally figured out, because we as humans are just by and large, by far, the best suited to live on this planet than any other species. And when you look at it, things like when you see a beaver or like honeybees, beavers build dams and honeybees build hives and they make honey, but they've been doing that for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and they haven't figured out a better way to do it. Beavers still build the same types of dams, bees still build the same type of honey hives and make the same type of honey. Whereas humans, we are always adapting, and we build skyscrapers, we make art, we do all these things, and we do a lot of things that aren't even particularly for survival, you know.
Yeah.
So I just,
Yeah.
when
Well,
I
I
look at
mean,
it at a broad lens, it kind of looks like God tried this out, and then he tried this out, and then he finally landed on us and knew we were different.
I would just say because I take the view, I'm not an open theist. I believe that God knows the future, and I believe
Yeah.
God the Father has a providential plan for the universe.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so there, you can read like Isaiah 44 to 48 or something like that, and just see like that, or is it, yeah, Isaiah is in the 40s is really a good depiction, because he says, look at these idols. Can an idol, predict the future? And that's his argument. His argument is an idol can't predict the future. So what
Mm-hmm.
does that tell us about God? Well, that he can tell the future. That's my
Yeah.
position. Maybe you disagree. I don't know.
Yeah. I haven't thought about
Um,
it like that. So,
but yeah, that's another interesting thing. I've had a couple discussions with some people about sovereignty versus free will, that
mm-hmm.
whole debate. Those can be fun too. Um, I hold a kind of soft compatibilism, which is basically like, it would take a while for me to explain my view, but basically, I
Yeah.
believe if we are oriented towards the truth, so therefore we have to be perceiving the truth in a right way. If we are oriented towards the truth, then we have free will, because anything that exists in reality, it's like there's only one resolution to what happens in reality. There's not multiple like things that happen in reality.
Okay.
So things collapse into a singular way of happening. And this is where it gets into the discussion of, well, uh, you know, d- d- how do we have free will? And that's where I say, I think many of our decisions that we make on a daily basis are pretty much autopilot. Like, we might be thinking about it, but like
Mm-hmm.
there's not like like a it's like, do you want to wear blue socks or red socks? It's like, well, that's kind of a trivial matter. I kind of view it
Mm-hmm.
as like there's certain key moments where we are more enacting our free will, and that is when we are according our mind and our behavior with reality. That's would be my definition of free will. Because
Okay.
yeah, you can talk about, well, I have this qualia of what it's like to, have an ice cream cone or something like that. But that's it's not significant. It's not a linchpin to anything, if that makes sense. It's like, what are the things that matter? Well, according yourself with reality is what truly matters. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I feel Jesus says, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Yep.
So he's talking about a kind of freedom that comes from knowing the truth. And
Yeah.
so yeah, anyways, I wrote a book, and
Oh,
part of my book has a chapter in there about human will. Uh, but yeah,
that's really interesting. Yeah. I've really recently have honed in on creationism.
uh-huh,
Just because I love science and I've always loved science. And when I was a younger kid,
yeah,
I thought that scientists were like anti-God. And then I learned later that in the way I look at it now is that science is just the study of God's creationism.
yep,
And the more I look into it, the more I learn about physics, the more I learn about the universe in general. It all, to me, I see God and I see his works.
yeah. Well, and
Like,
that's exactly what Romans 1 says. The universe is, and it says in Psalms, uh the 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 sky is his handiwork. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like that was said thousands of years ago that you can just look around you in at creation and go, yeah, it's reasonable to believe that God exists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
And it's kind of like you can get as detailed as you want or as like big picture as you want, and any way you look at it, it's like, yeah, God exists.
yeah, because just look at, I mean, when you look at our veins in the way they form, they look like
Uh-huh.
tree branches in the way they form. And then I can't remember the exact Bible quote, but Jesus said something about that. And then you look at just all these things. And one of the biggest things for me recently was there's always this debate on whether aliens exist, and whether or not,
Yeah.
if aliens existed, would that fit into Christianity or not. But there was always this paradox, and I'm completely blanking on it, Fermi's paradox, that basically said,
Yeah.
well, if they were out there, why haven't we seen them? But very recently, the James Webb Space Telescope was launched. And for the first time in human history, we have basically been able to fully photograph other star systems. Before, the way that we would detect if other stars had planets, and we found out that other stars had planets, was literally by watching them for weeks at a time and waiting to see if the light level of the star dipped. And then you could tell that something passed in front of it, and that means there was a planet there.
Uh-huh.
So now we've actually been able to take pictures of these things in enough detail to find out that no other star system that we've seen so far since it launched about 3 or 4 years ago is set up the way ours is, with the rocky planets in front and the big gas giants in the back. And so when you look at our solar system and the way it's set up, it is perfectly set up the way our star is. And with Jupiter being in the space that it is, Jupiter sucks in all these comets and asteroids that could hit us and literally wipe out Earth. But it sucks up a majority of them. Even recent, like I think in our lifetime, the Shoemaker comet was headed towards us, but it got sucked in by Jupiter's gravity and basically saved humanity. So that's like our guardian angel. And then you look at the fact that we have the moon, and the only place in the solar system, we don't know about the universe yet because we can't see moons yet, but the only place in the solar system where the moon is the exact same size as the sun in the sky is on Earth, which causes eclipse, full total solar eclipses and lunar eclipses.
Wow.
And we know on the day Jesus died, the eclipse happened. And
Right.
they were even able to trace that back by basically rewinding the sky through the use of computers to find out that, yes, on the day Jesus died, it did happen. So it wasn't just something someone wrote down in the Bible. It did happen. But then we look
Right.
at our sun. Our sun is a very uncommon star. Usually you have these stars that are massive, like 100 times bigger than the sun, or you have these things called red dwarfs that are about 3 times smaller than the sun, and they don't put out enough heat really to sustain life. And so when you look at the universe as a whole through the James Webb Space Telescope, you can see that something special about our solar system in general.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I mean, it's amazing the fine tuning of the universe that
Mm-hmm.
life can exist here. It's like we haven't even found another place where it could possibly exist. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that is incredible considering how big space is.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't
You
been
know,
able, and then the James Webb Space Telescope just broke the original confirmed or agreed upon um, age of the universe. I think they used to think it was about 12 billion years old, and now
uh-huh.
it's upwards of 25 billion years old. And they thought if they were able to look that far back, what they would see, the way that it works whenever you look back, you're looking back in time because light can only travel so fast. So when we look at something that's 12 billion light years away, that means we're looking at it basically 12 billion years in the past. And so what they
Right.
thought, if they were able to look past that, they would see galaxies that weren't formed yet. That would be like proto galaxies where they wouldn't be in any spirals and they wouldn't be collected. But then the James Webb Space Telescope comes out and we're able to look back 24 billion years in the past and we're seeing galaxies that are formed. And so
Yeah.
that it's kind of destroying the Big Bang Theory narrative and story or theory and everything. So
At least the dating of it.
mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not a big fan of the Big Bang Theory. I kind of think that the universe just has always existed and will always exist. But that's
Well,
just my
how do you
opinion.
read the first verse of the Bible? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What's your take on that verse?
I think he's talking about how he created our solar system and Earth.
Okay, so you don't take the heavens as being the universe, you take it as being our solar system.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
But
Because I
like,
kind of
I
think,
mean,
like I
the
said, with,
redshift,
yeah.
what, go ahead.
Yeah. Because like when I was talking about evolution earlier, how I think that God was like trying things out, I think he was doing the same things with creating these star systems and then ending up creating galaxies. What he was doing was trying to make the perfect solar system that would sustain life. And that's because like I just explained, our solar system is so perfect. It could not be any more perfect for sustaining life.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, where do you go in the Bible to get that view? I mean, I understand you're talking science, you're talking from a scientific point of view. But like
Mm-hmm.
if you go to the Bible, like where would you go to find something like that?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the things like, it says in the Bible that God created the heavens and the earth and everything, and he did that in 7 days, and then he rested. It God is an eternal being, and so what is 7 days to God when because he told Adam that, right? How it was created, or was it? I'm not sure, but seven
I'm
days
sorry, repeat
to
that again.
he said he created the earth and everything in 7 days. To
Well,
me,
that word day, it's called yom. It can be ambiguous. So it can
okay,
mean the daylight, it can mean 24 hours, it can mean an epoch of time, it can mean a
yeah,
lot of different things.
yeah, that's where I was going to.
So,
Was
yeah,
because God is an eternal being, so to him 7 days could be 1,000 years, it could be 10,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 1 billion years. And so that kind
right.
of that fits into what we have as humans have been able to discover, that the earth is about 6 or 7 billion years old, right? Or 4 or 5 billion, something like that. I don't have all these numbers off the top of my head.
I think the Earth is supposed to be like 4.5 billion years
Yeah,
old,
yeah.
somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the
Um,
sun's about
it
5 or 6.
yeah, so it is really interesting the more you dig into science. Like this is the cool thing is like you can believe in evolutionary theology or theistic evolution, or you can take intelligent design, or you can take creationism, and you can basically make an argument for God from any of those
Mm-hmm.
with science. And it just goes to show, like, I think in a way the reason that God did things like this is just so, like, we couldn't figure it all out, like
Yeah.
it's kind of like a sign of him saying something like, oh, yeah, you guys are basically foolish compared to me. Like, you guys
Mm-hmm.
think you're so smart. You think you're going to figure it all out. Well, you're not. You're always going to be searching.
Yep. Yeah. No matter how long we look into it, things always progress, and we always find out there's something we don't know. Like we found out about quantum mechanics through the help of like Einstein, and
Yeah,
that was crazy. But then it's like we still have yet to barely figure that out. And then by the time we get that figured out, there'll be something else we need to figure out, and but then
right.
eventually Jesus will come back to the earth and all of that.
Yeah. And personally, my perspective on Jesus' return, this is just my own personal perspective. And you got to kind
Mm-hmm.
of hold these things with an open hand because,
Mm-hmm.
there are other, quote unquote, valid perspectives. But I
Yeah.
personally believe that when we get closer to the end, quote unquote, the end, that humanity is going to be more sinful and God is going to be more present in the earth at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, you're going to have this duality sort of thing. Like, the darkness is even darker,
Yep.
but the light is even brighter, so to speak. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said that, uh, for example, he wanted us to be one, right? He says that in John 17, that he wants his church, not only for these, but for those that will believe, he wants us to be one in Jesus. We haven't even come close to that. But at the same time, Jesus also says the end will be like the days of Noah, where it was incredibly sinful
Oh yeah.
and evil. And so I'm and where I would go to this, well, how do I know that there will be a unity of Christians? Well, I go to Ephesians 4, I think it's like 11 through 13 or something like that. And it basically says, here's the gifts that God has given us as ecclesial, roles in the church. And these will remain until we all attain the unity of the knowledge of the Son of God. So that hasn't happened yet. We have not had a unity of the faith yet. We've been arguing about theology since, you know, since uh, Paul rebuked Peter, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, we've always been fighting. And I think in some sense it's a tragedy, but in the same sense, it's kind of a reality that persecution, like we saw with Charlie Kirk, has brought so many people to faith. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like persecution has, you don't wish it on a society, you don't wish it on anyone, but it's kind of like it has this effect that it brings the unity out of the people in the church, you know?
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like when 9/11 happened and the country just completely united behind each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like that same sort of thing, you know, um, that the persecute, like the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. I really believe that. And I think it comes out in more than one way. Yes, it comes out in, conversions, that more people convert because of the martyrs, but it's
Yeah.
also a unifying agent, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that unifies people because they learn that they have to depend on each other. They can't depend on the world anymore, so they have to depend on each other, so that coalesces them together.
Yeah.
That's kind of my perspective, is as persecution increases, there's going to be more unity until we get to a place where, essentially we're all of the same sort of uh brotherly affection towards one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's something to be said about that when you look at like entropy and how everything is heading towards disorder, but at the same time being ordered, you know?
Well,
So,
yeah, and that's, God is above that, I believe. I
mhm,
believe God is
yeah,
above entropy, and you think about Christ in the way he uh just, Christianity is the most popular religion in the world today.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, so out of this tragedy, the Son of God dying, you now have billions, arguably, Christians around the world. Okay, so um, that death of a perfect man, you could say, who was God, who died for our sins, caused a unity that kind of transcends the whole entropy idea, you know,
yeah,
um, because God is love, and nothing can overcome love. It's kind of
yeah,
C.S. Lewis has this really great quote. It goes something like, uh, uh, "Love does not rest upon reciprocity," uh, which basically means that when you love someone as an altruistic act, you're not thinking about what you get in return.
mhm,
And that's the same thing that Christ demonstrated when he died on the cross.
yeah,
He died for us. He went through that horrible, horrible treatment and shame and dishonor. And I mean, even the shame alone, like most people, almost
mhm,
anyone couldn't bear. But like on top of that, he was scourged. He was nails through his wrists and his feet, a razor sharp crown of thorns over his head, over his whole head, by the way.
mhm,
And that was just the tip of the iceberg, because uh, the wrath of God was on Jesus, which
yeah,
is like a supernatural thing. It's like all the sin, all the ugly stuff that we've ever done went on Jesus at that time. So,
mhm,
and from that came the resurrection.
yeah,
And Paul talks about the resurrection in 1 Corinthians 15. If you want to have solid ground for the resurrection, there's a little. It's called a creed in the New Testament. Um, I think it's Ephesians, or it's 1 Corinthians 15:3-8. If you read that, it reads like these are words that don't originate with Paul, but he got it from somewhere else. And so that's how we know it's authentic, because it's
mhm,
based on eyewitness testimony. And at one point it says 500 people saw Jesus alive.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like even skeptics that study the New Testament go, yeah, we don't really know what to do about this.
mhm,
So
yeah. I think
and from
whenever
his
he,
resurrection,
yeah,
yeah, from his resurrection comes the whole movement of the church,
mhm,
which is just incredible.
yeah, I think whenever the resurrection happened, it says he revealed himself to 500 people all at once, like instantaneously. I think that's what it said, which is
He says,
amazing.
"I delivered to you what I had previously received, that Christ died according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised according to the Scriptures." And then he saw, and then it says the witnesses, and then he met, and then he saw Peter, or saw, I think it's Peter first, and then uh, the all the apostles, and then James, and then and then 500, and then lastly to me. Paul's talking about himself, and then lastly he appeared to me. I think that's roughly how it goes, but it reads
Okay.
better than that. I'm doing
Yeah.
a crappy job of it. I really should have it memorized, but I don't.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And the thing was, even at the time, what people were debating over was not the fact that Jesus had done these miracles and he had died and rose from the dead. What they really debated was whether or not he was the Son of God as he claimed to be. because
Yeah,
even back then the Romans knew that the Egyptians had these magical powers that they could do things. And so they knew it wasn't out
right,
of the realm of possibility that someone could come, because we learned that in Exodus when
right.
forgive me, Noah, not Noah,
Moses.
Moses is talking to the Pharaoh, and God's like trying to prove to the Pharaoh this or that to let the Jews free. And so he does a miracle, and then the Pharaoh's magicians do like the same thing. Like he throws the staff on the ground and it turns into a snake. And they're like, oh, I can do that too. And then so they weren't worried about that. They were just worried about whether or not he was the Son of God.
Yeah. In First John, I think it's like chapter 3, chapter 4, First John. It gives it basically says anyone who confesses that Jesus has come in the flesh, because that was another part of it, is Gnosticism, that Jesus didn't really have a real body. But he
Mm-hmm.
said that, and we know that he is the Son of God. That's kind of the way he says it. And so it's very clear in Scripture that Jesus was the Son of God, and he did come in the flesh. Like that was like the heresy that like God said, nope, I'm not letting this one take off. You know, I'm just cutting this one off at the head. So, uh, you know, there's been a lot of heresy since then, but you know, that was the one that one of the ones I should say that God really was like, I am not allowing this to take root in the church. So, and that's why you just barely ever see Gnostics anymore. I mean, you got your New Age people, but
Mm-hmm.
there's, you know, they're kind of goofy and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. When you think about it, like we kind of said earlier, like God's an internal being. So thousands of years to him is probably a blink of an eye. And so
right.
to care about us so much that he sent his only son down to us in order to have a relationship with us one on one in the flesh is crazy, you know? And not
Yeah,
only
I mean,
that,
it's a
but to die
beautiful
for our
thing
sins.
it's a beautiful thing that the creator of the universe wants to know us personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, and it's almost like too good to be true, but like if your eyes are open, if you really have a posture of humility and you say, okay, God, I don't even know if you exist, but if you do exist, show yourself to me. And he will. You know,
Yeah.
Matthew 7:7 says, ask and you will receive, right?
Yep. That's one of
So,
my favorite.
uh, yeah, it's like a spiritual law. Like, I don't believe people go to hell based on a technicality or something like that. I
Mm-hmm.
believe anyone who truly searches for the truth will end up at Jesus.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's in some ways why I view like Muslims having dreams of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It's like unprecedented. Like I don't know how often this has happened throughout church history, but like it's almost a common occurrence, like in Muslim countries, for them to have a dream about Jesus, and then for someone to explain to them who they saw, and like this is what the gospel is, you know.
Yeah.
So like there had to be something there that they were doing something right, because the Bible says draw near to God and he will draw near to you,
Mm-hmm.
but it also says that I will draw all men to myself. So it's like this. There's like this two things going on at the same time. Like we search for God while God's searching for us, sort of thing. You know.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know I don't like that phraseology of saying that God searches for us because He knows everything, but like um, He's searching our hearts, you know, and he's trying to find the ones, not like he can't, but like he's finding the ones that he can rely on. You know, I was watching
Mm-hmm.
this, going back to Charlie Kirk, I watched this really good video. I think it was from like early 2024, maybe April or February or something like that. And the whole thing was about, here I am, send me, Lord. And he talked about all the biblical examples of where this word Hineni is used in the Bible. And it's really a posture of like, what are my marching orders, God? Tell me what to do, you know?
Yeah.
And
It's
I shared that actually in my Bible study uh, yesterday. And I was a little concerned because we had some very liberal people in the Bible study.
mm-hmm.
No one walked out or anything like that, which I was happy about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I shared a video, a 17-minute video from Charlie Kirk, just talking about the call of God, and they said they wanted to come back, which I was like, great.
Yeah.
Um, and there was some political stuff in there, even though I try to steer away from politics in the Bible study. I might talk to
Yeah.
people one on one about it, but
Mm-hmm.
like I don't want to make the Bible study about politics.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask. So, how did you get that started? How did you start doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, what happened is I had been there for like, I moved in December of 2019. I think it was 2002 to maybe 2003, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is when we started the Bible study. And basically how it started is people already wanted to do a Bible study.
Yeah.
And it would get brought up and people would talk a little bit about it and then it would drop and then no one would do anything. So about the second, third, fourth time, I said, okay, I'm just going to try and plan something. And here's what we'll do. I got my books ordered. I got my little Gospel of John booklets. And we just went through, and we've been going since. So we started
Yeah.
that beginning of March 2023. It took us 2 years and about 4 months to get through the Gospel of John.
Wow.
But it was really good, and we're still getting new people occasionally, which I'm thrilled with. But we've lost some people along the way, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's encouraging that some people's lives are just so transformed. There's a woman who is a Native American, and I met with her on Wednesday. It was a Wednesday, and I talked to her really for the first time, and she was very antagonistic towards me.
Hmm.
And she was talking about, oh yeah, Christians are against gay people and all this sort of thing. And I was just peaceably trying to de-escalate the situation.
Yeah.
And another member of the Bible study was trying to convince her to come to the Bible study. And she did. She basically said, I'll come to the Bible study, but like I have my own spirituality, and so like it's not going to have an effect on me, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she comes to the Bible study the next day. And then I see her, it must have been Friday or Saturday. She was in the entryway of our apartment complex. And she says, oh, Jesse, Pastor Jesse, you brought light into my life. And I was just like, is she on drugs? Like, what's going on? Because she was
Yeah.
clearly different. She was clearly different. She was like a different person. And like, uh, and then she keeps coming to the Bible study. She starts to adopt some conservative values, which I already said she was pretty against Christians for being anti-LGBTQ stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like she mentions like 3 or 4 months after she starts coming to Bible study, or maybe it was longer than, maybe it was like 6 months, but she just casually mentions, oh yeah, I stopped drinking and I stopped smoking. And I'm like, what? That's what I'm thinking to myself in my
Yeah.
head. Like, I didn't even tell you to do this. I never said a word about that. And
Mm-hmm.
you're doing this on your own. And I was just so shocked. This is a Native American, and usually they have a really strong problem with alcohol and things like
Yeah.
that. It's a tendency for them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, man, that was really cool. And
Yeah.
we're having more people that that are having an impact from the Bible study. So, God is certainly doing something through it, and it's the way I like to say it is the Bible study just fell in my lap
Yeah.
because people were already talking about doing one. And it was just kind of like, well, if no one else is going to do anything, I might as well try to do something. And that's basically how it started.
That's really cool. Yeah. How many people do you get on average, and how often do you do it?
We do it once a week, except for the fourth Thursday. So next week we won't have it, but we usually do it every Thursday at 7 o'clock, except the fourth Thursday. And we usually have about four, five, four, three, four, or five about.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's growing, so it might be more. Like last time, I think we had one, two, three, four, five. We had five last time, so five's a good number.
Yeah.
Um, Usually we have about four, three or four.
That's not bad. Something that,
Yeah, but
like
it's
that,
like
that started like
it's
ground
some.
roots, grassroots, I mean.
Yeah, yeah, and what's so cool about it is it's not necessarily the numbers that are
Yeah.
impressive. What's
Mm-hmm.
impressive is how people's lives are totally changed around by it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the impressive thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Um, so are you actually like ordained pastor?
No, 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 nothing
Okay.
like that. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Just in my apartment complex. That's where we do the Bible study.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's really cool that it it kind of reminds me of something I did when I was in high school. It wasn't anything like that, but I used to play baseball when I was in high school. And one day after a game, no one took the flag down. And so there's this old Vietnam veteran that lived across the street from the baseball field, and he noticed it was still up way past the time that the game was over. So he had to shuffle his way out there. He could barely walk without a walker and everything. Shuffle his way out there and take it down. And so the next day
Uh-huh.
we all got in big trouble for it. We had to run a bunch of laps and everything. And so from that day, I just took responsibility for it until I graduated
Oh,
high
nice.
school. I was always the one that put the flag up and took the flag down. So I've always just been super patriotic, and like if I had known and had been like aware that it got left up, then I would have done something about it. But I just didn't know at that time that it had got left up. So,
There you go. It led to a lesson.
mm-hmm. So you said at the beginning, um, the way that you came to Christ was pretty miraculous, or it was a big event that happened.
Yeah. You want to hear about it?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Well, do you want to hear the short version, the long version, or can give any length of version you want?
I mean, whatever you feel comfortable with. We're only an hour in so far, so we got time.
Okay. Okay. So I'll give the medium version just so we can
Okay.
continue to talk about other things too.
Okay.
So I was technically saved, if you can use that language,
Mm-hmm.
when I was 6 years old because I said a prayer of salvation with my mother at 6 years old. And I think the prayer was honest.
Mm-hmm.
But um as I grew up, I was very shy. And that might sound surprising to you because I'm
Yeah.
so outspoken and stuff like that, and I can be, kind of bold, but that's the way I grew up. And I got into a relationship that I shouldn't have gotten into.
Yeah.
And to make a long story short, I was smoking weed at the time. Never been a weed
Mm-hmm.
smoker before then,
Yeah.
but I ended up developing psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we talked about this at one point, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was basically half because of marijuana. This is what I'm putting together after the fact, and half guilt because of this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed the trajectory of my life forever. And it took me a long time to get to the point that I am today. Um, but anyways, after that, I struggled with a lot of paranoid delusions.
Yeah.
Um, like feeling like people were in my room going to torture me with the
Mm.
lights off, right? Like
Yeah.
weird stuff like that. And um, so I, at some point, got it in my head that I should call myself an atheist, which the belief followed after that. I should call myself an atheist because if I did, then I wouldn't have to worry about persecution. That's
Mm.
just the way I rationalized it in my head. If I
Yeah.
don't call myself a Christian, I don't have to worry about persecution. Because I had a lot of paranoid delusions about persecution. Um, and so I was an atheist, and then I went on, this is so weird to think about, but I call it a quest for truth. And it was where I really devoted myself to learning about the universe, about what is true. So I started looking into all these, you know, this wisdom of the world, so to speak. And I read a book, Psychological Types by Carl Jung. And even though Jung himself was he was kind of spiritual, but he was also kind of an atheist. He had a weird thing going for him.
Yeah.
But that book, because I saw the complexity of the human mind, it basically turned me into a pantheist. And I developed a theory. My theory was, well, how is it possible that we have minds with agency that are in the world today? And so I developed a theory that the universe itself was a god, and it wanted something from within itself to discover itself through awareness. That was my theory at the time. But then I had an encounter with a man that changed my life forever. I He first walked up to my driveway. We had a short conversation. I didn't really feel particularly inclined to talk to him, so he went his way, and I walked to the place that I normally walk. And
Mm-hmm.
there's this, like, it's kind of looks like a figure eight, like there's a large body of water and a smaller body of water, and there's like
Okay.
a bridge that connects them in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked around, and as I walked around, I thought of his handshake. And I kid you not, I started crying because the handshake he gave me was so humble, so honest. It's like I can't, I've never met anyone like this. So I just start bawling. And as I'm walking around the lake, I'm like, I hope no one sees me because this would be really awkward if like
Yeah.
people see me like this. Um, but I make it to the first junction where it's like, okay, I walked around this small body of water, and then I felt like the Holy Spirit was convicting me and saying, okay, you can either keep walking or you can, like, I stopped in my tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't walking anymore. And it probably wasn't very long, but I had to sit there and think about which way I wanted to go. And so I went the short way home. And as I got in my van and I started driving there, I'm like, I have to find this guy again because that was it was just a handshake, but it just was so influential to me. And so on my way back, I'm like, where is this guy? I end up finding him. He came out of somebody else's house, and I parked the van on the side of the road. And I said, I had to see you again. And I don't know what he said to that. And we ended up having like a 3 hour long conversation. And it was him mostly talking, but going back to what I said earlier about being afraid of persecution, so I called myself a Christian. I had never met this guy in my life. And he asked me a question. He said, if you call yourself a Christian, you could be persecuted for your faith. Is it worth it? And it was based on everything he said up to that point that I had to really die to myself. And I said, yes, it's worth it. So that was when everything changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he like, and another thing about it, I say that because it emphasizes that what he was saying, what he was talking about, was like he was literally reading my mind.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. And I've thought about all the possibilities of who this guy is, and I still don't know. But he's not an angel. And how I know that is because I was about to ask him, are you an angel? And he looked at me and he goes, I'm not an angel, before I could ask him.
Wow.
Yes, it was crazy. And so after this event, it kind of left me with what I call a spiritual high for like 2 months. And like, everything was radically different after that. And I've still maintained my faith. I don't have the high that I had after the experience, but that was really how my faith was confirmed. As I said, when I got saved exactly, I don't know, because I did say a prayer of salvation when I was 6 years old, and I think I meant it at the time. But I drifted and I became an atheist and then a pantheist, and then this experience. And I've just been, that was August 24th, 2018.
Wow.
So that's basically what set my faith on fire, and it's never been the same since.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting. It's a lot better than my story.
Well,
yeah.
it's not about better, you know, it's like, and we all have to start somewhere. And, you know, God can use whatever methods he wants to save whoever he wants. You know, I think, and you might think that about my story, but just think about, you know, Apostle Paul's story. Well, some of the experience that he had totally blew mine out of the water, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's relative. Like, it doesn't matter, you know, so much what saved you. It matters that you continue to walk the path, you know?
Yeah. I was raised Christian, and I think it was about the same age that you said. Like, I accepted Jesus in my heart, and I said the prayers, and it was always my grandma. Her name was Granny Hope to me.
Okay.
She was always the one that kept me in it. She took me to church. My parents weren't. My mom was probably a Christian because she was probably raised that way. My dad, I couldn't tell you if he was or not, but they definitely never took me to church. They never talked to me about God that I know of, that I can think of. But so I was pretty much a Christian my whole life, and went to church sparingly, though, whenever my grandma would take me. But then both of my parents were drug addicts. So when I was 12 years old, DHS got involved and they took us from the home. But then after a year, my parents had proven to the state that they could have their kids back. So we went back to them, but it was only for about 6 months until my dad popped 3 times in a row a negative drug test, or positive, however you say that. You know, he was doing drugs again. And so from that time on, that was about when I was 13, I was in foster homes. And then it wasn't until I was about 15 years old, I started living in the house that eventually became the parents that adopted me at I was 16
Okay.
years old when I was fully adopted. But they never took me to church, but
Okay.
they talked about God here and there. But we never like went to church, but I would go to Wednesday services after school because the church was close. So I'd go there sometimes. Sometimes I would skip and go to do things with my friends, just as teenagers do. But then as I became an adult and I went to live on my own, I got into alcohol and was drinking a lot and was pretty much at one point an alcoholic, not in a way that it's like I felt like I was dependent on it, that I needed it, but I was drinking a lot, like every day. And on the weekends, I was definitely binging and drinking a lot more.
Okay.
And there was a point where I wouldn't have called myself an atheist, but I definitely basically quit believing in God. And so that was probably from 2021 until I was 23 when I met my
Okay.
wife, and she ended
Uh-huh.
up bringing me back to go to church with her. And at that point in my life, I was at a point where I was searching for God again. And
Uh-huh.
so I met my wife on a night where I was off work because I was on vacation. And my friend called me and he was like, "Hey, I just got off work. Do you want to go eat?" And I had been out doing things all day and I was on my way home. I was probably halfway back to my house. And he called me. He's like, "You want to go eat?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I've been out doing stuff all day. I'm not particularly hungry." But, and he just kept like, let's go out to eat. Let's hang out, have a couple beers and everything. And I was like, okay. And at this point in my life, I had quit dating. I had quit hooking up with women and everything that I was doing. It had been about 3 months since I had started doing that, where I was like, I'm just going to focus on myself. And it was at the point where I was like, okay, I want a wife. And so I ended up going to eat with him that day. And then my wife, she ended up walking in. And that's how I met my wife. And we ended up getting more serious. And it was probably only 2 months in when we were pretty much like, it was something different, completely different. Um, and so she ended up taking me back to church and we ended up getting married. And then I was baptized this year in January. And
Praise
that's
God.
how I came back to Christ. And ever since I've been baptized and ever since I met my wife, like you said, it's been a fiery passion and my faith has been
Yeah.
on fire. And I've been wanting to
Right.
learn more.
Awesome. Praise God.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, man. It's so interesting to hear other people's testimonies
Mm-hmm.
because, like, you can't predict a person's testimony.
No.
Everybody comes a little bit different way, you know?
Yeah.
So interesting to me.
Yeah. And when I got married, basically that day was when we obviously drank at the wedding, but after from that day was when I quit drinking.
Nice.
And ever since then, it was probably a solid year where I had like no drinks. And then
Uh-huh.
the past couple of months I've had like a whiskey, but that's been it. And I've been able to control myself now. I don't have to like drink until I'm drunk. That's the way it always
Right.
felt. It's like once I started
Yeah.
drinking, I had to keep going until I was drunk.
Well, I pray that you will continue to stay on the right path and not go down that dangerous road. Because we always think that, oh, I'm past that now.
Mm-hmm.
But like I have people in my Bible study that like have gotten past things, and they're like, yeah, I relapsed after 15 years of sobriety, and this is a Christian, you know. So like,
Mm-hmm.
um, just be vigilant. That's all I would say.
Yeah.
Don't let Satan get a hold in there. Don't
Oh
get
yeah.
complacent. Keep keep fighting the fight, brother. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, when Charlie Kirk died, the one of the first things I wanted to do was go buy a big bottle of whiskey and drink again, but I didn't.
Oh, praise God. That good
Mm-hmm.
for you, man. That's really good.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I loved
That's
whiskey.
good. That can be so hard to say no to yourself like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's come a long way because also when I was an alcoholic, I had gained a lot of weight. I was about
Uh-huh.
260, not super big,
Okay.
but to the point where it was like, something needs to be done or it's going to start affecting my health seriously. And so now I've gotten back down. I sit around 190 to 200, but I'm also 6'4", so that's a pretty normal weight.
Oh, okay. Sure. Well, good for you, man. Are you working out at all, or how are you, man?
I control my eating a lot more, and then my job is very physical, so I
Okay.
like to work out when I can, but work has been more
What
busy recently.
if you got a job that you like work out all day, like
Mm-hmm.
that's the same thing to
Yeah,
me. It's like you don't need to work out on top of that.
yeah,
It's just a matter of are you getting exercise?
oh yeah, yeah.
So
I
like
walk
right now,
like
I
8 to
can't.
10 miles a day.
What's that?
I walk about 8 to 10 miles a day.
Yeah, right. Like that's plenty of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So like right now, I can't work out because I just had
Oh
surgery. As
yeah,
I
yeah.
mentioned earlier, I had my gallbladder taken out. So even though I pretty much feel fine, it's like, man, I really wish I could just crank out 20 push-ups right now. But I like hold myself off from that
Yeah.
because I don't know. I just I go through these phases, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
like I'm like right on top of everything.
Yep.
And then for whatever reason, I don't even know what it is a lot of the time. It's some stupid thing that gets me off track. And then it
Yep.
just steamrolls. And like I'm off track for months. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I got to get back to this at some point.
Yep.
And so I slowly started incorporating other things in like stuff back into my life. But like I'm a smoker and that is so hard to quit. You have no idea.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish I had never started that stupid habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been using Copenhagen, dip since I was
Uh-huh.
14. And then last year for Sober October, I quit everything. And so I stopped
Really?
it. Yeah. I had stopped it for a couple of months, but then on the rise now are these nicotine pouches. And I've done some
Right.
research on it. And as long as you're not overdoing it with them, they are safer. I'll say safer. They're not safe, but safer than using tobacco, especially smoking. A lot
Right.
safer than smoking
Right.
because
And
they
how
they do
much do
have
those
some
cost?
benefits. Um, Mine are like $4 a can, and there's
For
20 of them. That
like
lasts me a whole week.
really
The way
four
I do
dollars
it,
will last you a week.
yeah. I mean, I do it about 3 times a day, maybe four.
Okay.
That adds up. It's somewhere around there. I use them at
And
work because
everyone's
they do
different,
have
right?
some benefits. Mm-hmm.
Like everybody does a different amount. Everybody's addicted a different amount. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
kind of is tied to it a different amount. I've known people that like one person in my Bible study. This is before they came to the Bible study, but they went to the hospital for a health issue and they slapped a nicotine patch on their arm and they didn't smoke for a while and they took it off and they're like, oh, I guess I don't need to smoke anymore. And it was simple as that for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've tried everything. I
Yeah.
don't know. I got to try these pouch things. I
Yeah.
got to try it at least.
Yeah. The way I
Try
did
to
it
get off the
when I quit dipping was I started putting restrictions on myself. So like I couldn't do it until 10 a.m. And then I had to take like a 3 or 4 hour break after that to do it again. And then then
yeah,
eventually I got to the point where I was like, I cannot do it at the house. except for on weekends. And then got to the point where it was like only at work. And then I worked my way down, which was a lot easier than cold turkey. But
Yeah,
some people that
that's kind
work,
of what
some
I'm
people it
trying to.
doesn't.
That's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm right now. I'm writing down all the times I smoke just to get a
Mm-hmm.
baseline of
Yep.
like how much do I typically smoke,
Yep.
and then I have to worry about my triggers too. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's a big part of it for smokers is something gets you to want a cigarette at that particular time.
Yep.
And I've tried to stretch out the time. So far, today was a good day, I would say, but
Okay.
it's hard. It's really hard to
Yeah.
stretch out that time for me
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
that's
it's
one of
just
those things
there.
I did
It's
too, is
just,
when I felt like I wanted to do it, I told myself, okay, wait 10 minutes. And, usually it was like at work. So sometimes I'd get distracted and 10 minutes would turn into 30 or 45 or an hour. And then
yeah,
you just realize, oh, I can do that. I can wait an hour longer. And so then you can wait another hour longer if you already waited 1 hour.
right. And the idea is to slowly step down the nicotine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting less nicotine over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could try, like, um, whenever you want a cigarette, you could try pouches because they come in like 3 milligram, 6 milligram, 9 milligram, and some of the manufacturers, whatever, they have like 12 milligrams. So you could try doing that because it takes longer for it to obviously enter your system because when you smoke, it goes directly into your lungs, and that's the
Yeah.
second fastest way to get something into your bloodstream. So it has to absorb through
Yeah.
your gum skin, but
Uh-huh.
it actually stays in your bloodstream longer than when you smoke it.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'm chewing Nicorette gum right now because I knew I wouldn't be able to have a cigarette in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just um I was born with a heart defect that
Really?
it's VSD, which just means I had a hole between my left and right atrium, and so at
Uh-huh.
6 months, when I was only 6 months old, I had to have heart surgery.
Oh my
So they
God.
had to go in there and sew that up, and then my pulmonary valve had stenosis, which just means it was really small and narrow, and so they had to go put a stent in there. And so my heart
Uh-huh.
doctor always told me pretty much whatever you do, don't smoke because of my pulmonary valve. The pulmonary valve is the one that pumps blood into your lungs. So
Oh,
I definitely always stayed away from smoking, but then I picked up dipping because I'm from Oklahoma and very country out here. And so that's just what people were doing.
everybody does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, it can be hard to stop, but once you realize it in your brain and you recognize those things, like writing it down, that's a really good thing. Figuring that out. That's kind of what I did too, is figure out like how much I was using it, and that way I could walk it back.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
That's good. It's a good step. And it's one of those things where it's like, when you take 5 steps forward towards quitting, but if you end up coming a step back because you have one of those bad days and you allow yourself, you just kind of have to take that beating and realize like, okay, I had a bad day, so I needed an extra one. But then you have to realize, okay, next day is going to be better. Next day,
Yep.
I'll take a better hold of it.
Yep, always recommit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to recommit quickly, or else you'll just end up back where you were.
Yeah. So like one of the things I've been trying to do is smoke a half a cigarette
Mm-hmm.
instead of a whole cigarette. And then
Yeah.
so I'm trying to stretch out the time. So usually it's like every 45 minutes, which is like a full cigarette every hour and a half about. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, I roll my own, so it's not like the same as
Yeah.
like it's not the same amount as like if you were to go buy a pack of cigarettes from
Mm-hmm.
from the gas station or something.
Yeah.
So it's not as much nicotine, but I'm still like I'm it's way too much. It's
Mm-hmm.
not good, you
Yeah,
know?
it's mostly the carbon that you're inhaling into your lungs. That's really the nicotine itself is not that much of a problem until you are overusing it. Then it can become a problem. But
Yeah.
nicotine itself is actually kind of good for your brain. Um,
Okay.
and it helps lower blood pressure. It can help with anxiety, and then it helps you. It can help you think clearer. Basically, I think that's the best way to say it. It helps you think. That's why I use it at work.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
Well, I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that about 90% of people that have a psychotic mental illness, like schizophrenia or what I have, schizoaffective disorder, smoke. 9 out of 10.
hmm,
So there's something about the um, way, it might be something to do with the way the brain works, that it just
yeah,
latches on to that nicotine in a different kind of way.
mm-hmm.
I don't know
Well,
for sure, but
yeah. I mean, nicotine is still a drug. Um,
right.
so it's obviously not as strong as a drug as you would say like opioids or marijuana. Those are much stronger
Yeah.
drugs. But yeah, it still gets into your brain and affects it. That's what defines a drug is if it has a psychoactive effect on your brain.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
about nicotine particularly, but I know like opioids, there is a receptor in your brain specifically made for opioids. And then with
Yeah.
THC, it's the same way.
I know. And you would wonder, well, why God? Why did you
Mm-hmm.
do it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's one of those strange things. Like, we're made this way. So there has to be at least a purpose for these
Mm-hmm.
things
Yeah.
because our brain has a way to handle them, you know?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should be addicted to this stuff, you know?
No. Yeah. Cause I mean, the Bible talks about like moderation. And so,
Yeah.
and then like opioids and marijuana, that they're medicine, you're really supposed to use them as medicine. And not to say that you
Yeah.
couldn't use them
To a point.
recreationally or, uh, but yeah, it's very interesting. I've thought about it a lot because, like I
What?
said, my parents were drug addicts, so I've had
Yeah.
this thing, and especially like when I was in school, the Dare programs and everything, and then you kind of find
Uh-huh.
out that like they demonize drugs completely, and then I found out like, oh well, nicotine's a drug, caffeine's a drug, sugar's a drug, but no one demonized those. And so then I used weed
Yeah.
for the first time, and I was like, this really isn't that bad. But the only time I've ever used opioids, because that's what my parents were addicted to, was in hospital settings. I've never used them, even after when they prescribed them to me. I never even used them outside the hospital because I just didn't want to chance it. Because at the time, I didn't know
Right.
there was this theory going around that it's like genetic, you know, that if your
Uh-huh.
parents were drug addicts, then you're going to be a drug addict. I don't know how true that is at this point. Um,
Uh-huh.
because I mean, I guess it kind of, if I look at my own life, yeah, I've been addicted to alcohol. I've been addicted to nicotine. Those are drugs themselves. So, but I still don't
Yeah.
know exactly what addiction is. I haven't figured that out yet because you can be addicted to many things. You know, you can be addicted to playing video games, or you can be addicted to good things, like you can get addicted to working out, and but then that can become
Right.
detrimental to you if you work out too much. You know.
Right. I think the way I've heard it talked about, and you probably know more about this than I do, but the way I've heard addiction talked about is it's a dependency to do something that affects the brain in some way.
Hmm.
So, like when you work out, you're releasing endorphins into
Mm-hmm.
your body, and
Yeah.
some people get addicted to that feeling. Or, caffeine. Like we all know somebody that drinks way too much coffee,
Yeah.
you know, or like the pothead that just is chronically high all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like even what the Bible says, it's so interesting. I was watching this video that Mike Winger. Do you know who Mike Winger is?
I don't think so.
Okay, he's like apologist, Bible teacher guy. Look him up. He's really good. He's
Okay.
been kind of going off the rails because he's just been attacking so many different things lately, but I've liked him historically. Anyways, he did a really good teaching on alcohol, which was basically that the Bible's view on alcohol is basically at celebrations, on rare occurrences, but you can drink it. Like that was basically the prescription
Mm-hmm.
that he gave. And it's like a 45-minute video. But it was really interesting because it wasn't all, yeah, go ahead. It's okay to drink whenever you want. And it wasn't, no, you should never drink at all. It was
Yeah.
like it has its place, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's interesting. Because yeah, it kind of
Yeah,
comes
look it
back to
up.
like
It's
moderation. But then
yeah.
there's just some people, and I don't know why it is, but there's some people that fall deep into alcoholism or really any kind of drug addiction, and then it's like they
Yeah.
have to abstain. And that's why, like, my pastor told me why we don't use real wine, because I asked him one day, I was like, why don't we use real wine for communion? He said, well, there's some people in
Uh-huh.
our congregation that are alcoholics, and if they have one drink, they won't be able to stop.
Yeah.
And so for some people, it's
Yeah.
like that. For me, it's like, yeah, I was at a point in my life where when I started drinking, I didn't want to stop, but it wasn't anything compelling me to like I have to keep going. Um,
Right.
and I can use it in
Or
moderation.
another way I've heard addiction is that it's a chemical dependency.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. There's a difference between like chemical dependencies and addiction, because I believe that opioids create a chemical dependence, but just looking at the science of the way THC works, it doesn't create a chemical dependence, but that doesn't mean you can't be addicted to it. I know people who are addicted to weed, and but
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot easier drug to just stop cold turkey. That's what it was for me. I smoked every day
Yeah.
for about a year or so, maybe longer. And once I stopped it, it was like easy. I didn't have to walk myself back like I did with nicotine. But I also did that with alcohol.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting. Wait, you quit alcohol cold turkey,
Well, I didn't.
or did you
Um,
walk that back?
I didn't walk it back consciously. I just at one point,
Okay.
by the time I got married, I was like, well, I'm not even
Uh-huh.
like it wasn't an everyday have 2 or 3 beers, and then on the weekend I would drink an entire bottle of whiskey, sometimes two. And it had gotten to the point where it was like I wasn't drinking every day, and so I guess I did, but I just didn't consciously do it like I did with nicotine.
Sure. So you know what that sounds? That just sounds like sanctification to me.
Mm-hmm.
Progressive sanctification. That God is just making you more into His image over time.
Yeah, yeah, you can look at it that way. That's the way it's felt ever since. I mean, I don't know. I went down some bad roads for a couple of years, like I said. I was hanging out with some undesirable people and doing things I shouldn't be doing. And then at one point, I just kind of, I guess I just felt that kind of, that pulling, like something was tugging on
Uh-huh.
me to go the opposite way.
Yeah.
And that's the way I feel it now. Like, especially like, after this assassination, I felt so much, felt compelled to be looking into my Bible and looking at verses. And, I have the Bible app, so it sends me, a verse, the daily verse every day, and actually
Uh-huh.
wanting to like click into it and like read parts of that chapter of and the things surrounding the verse instead of just the verse.
Right. Yeah, man, it sounds like God's working on you. Sounds like God's doing something to you. And that's a really good thing to witness in another believer.
Mm-hmm.
That God is changing them into his image day by day.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I just think about heaven, and I think my personal view is we never stop becoming more like Jesus. Like, even into eternity, we always are becoming more like Jesus. The Bible says that Jesus learned obedience through suffering,
Mm-hmm.
but yet he was perfect. So
Yeah.
how does a perfect person become more obedient? Well, because uh, there's some things that only time can do,
Yeah.
and circumstances, and um, just the walk of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that we will ever be increasing in glory, even though we
Yeah.
will have glorified bodies, incorruptible bodies, but like we will become more like Jesus into eternity, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's not just my view. Like a lot of like the Eastern Orthodox, they believe the same thing. A lot of Catholics, they believe the same thing. It's not emphasized as much in Protestantism, but it is like deification is in some sense part of like Dr. Paul Copan. I need to get his book. I don't know if it's out yet or not, but he was talking about a Protestant view of deification, which is theosis, only the Catholic version, only the Protestants call it the Catholic version. It's all the same thing. It just means basically, in a word, sanctification, being conformed more and more to the image of Jesus.
All right. So you were just talking about a book that you were reading or want to read. What other books do you read? Are they mostly like faith based, or you read a lot of other things?
Almost entirely nonfiction
Mm-hmm.
and almost entirely Christian.
Okay.
So I don't read a lot of fiction. Some books that I would recommend are The Return of the God Hypothesis by Dr. Stephen Meyer. That was a awesome book. Revival or We Die by Dr. Michael Brown. Um, uh, On the Resurrection series by Dr. Gary Habermas. Uh, I have not obviously read all of his material in that series because it's like 5,000 pages long,
Mm-hmm.
but I have read through some of it, and it's very good stuff. And it's also just a really good like resource book if
Yeah.
you are like in a debate with an atheist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's it makes the resurrection basically a historical fact, and the skeptics are not going to agree with that, obviously. But like, what other alternative theory is there that is even close to the resurrection? So,
Yeah.
uh, you know, Return of the God Hypothesis is a book that really solidified my view of intelligent design, and it's a historical book, or not a historical book. It's a scientific book that is a good evidence for God, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of shoots down the naturalistic theories. And Revival Where We Die is a great book if you want to know how revival starts and what we can do to bring revival, basically prayer, and just the many revivals throughout the church history. And the on the resurrection is just a wonderful magnum opus on the resurrection. Gary Habermas has studied the resurrection probably more than anyone else in history, maybe except the apostles. So, um, and I'm not the one saying that. That's other scholars that are saying that about him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he has other like more popular level, but like even the On the Resurrection series, at least for me, I found it approachable, like not too difficult to read.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just fantastic because it's almost like proof that Jesus rose from the dead. I mean, that's the way I view it because the evidence is so strong, so strong. Um, so yeah.
That's yeah. Um, I really liked Jordan Peterson's newest book, "We Who Wrestle with God," which
Oh yeah,
mm-hmm. I mean that's what
I have not
Israel
read it.
transfers to or translates to. It's a good
I've
one.
I have I have a kind of love-hate relationship with him,
Yeah.
and because I think some of the stuff he says is like right on point, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, he's kind of someone that he doesn't have a category for grace. Like he never talks about it. He doesn't really capture the gospel that way, that it's a unmerited gift. It's all
Yeah.
about what you can do, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but is he a positive influence for the culture? Yes. For Christianity, I'm not sure. That would be my answer.
Okay. Uh, Other than that, I read a bunch of books on physics and quantum mechanics, and then like the founding texts and stuff. Founding texts
Okay.
of America.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Like, I've never dealt that much into history much, except
Mm-hmm.
for the Resurrection book that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think our founding fathers were so wise
Mm-hmm.
in the way they wanted to do the government for the United States.
Yeah.
And we're still going on 250 years of like solid world leaders,
Mm-hmm.
like a world leader in things. So, like, there, I don't believe that the United States is a eternal kingdom like the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
It is blessed, I believe, because of the forefathers, because of their wisdom, because of the God blessed this nation because of them, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because they really were drawing from the Bible a lot of the time
Yeah.
when they came up with these um like constitution and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. That's where they derived a lot of how they wanted to create the country. And a lot of our founding fathers were like deists. They believed in like a god, but some of them, like Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't a full on Christian. He was just more of a deist, but he leaned on the theology that came from the Bible. and or not the theology, the philosophy that came from the Bible, a lot.
Right.
He just thought that the Bible was too contradictory, which I don't know how he came to that conclusion. Um, but that's how they ended up creating this great country, and no one's been able to do it better than us. And to the point you made, you said that it's been like 250 years since we've been like world leaders. It was really around the time of World War II when we really put ourselves on the main stage and became like a world superpower.
Uh,
But we were always the country of where everyone wanted to be since our creation. People heard about it and they left their lives behind and came here with nothing but their wife and their children and the shirts on their back to become American. And there's
yeah.
nowhere else in the world where millions of people come in droves to be a part of anything else.
Yeah, it really is amazing when you think about it. Um, the just the kind of the miraculous way that our country came about, and
Mm-hmm.
um, just the wisdom that he gave the founding fathers, which really is due to, again, persecution, because
Yeah.
in Europe they were persecuting Christians,
Mm-hmm.
Protestants mostly, and so they left Europe to find freedom of religion.
Yeah.
And so our freedom of religion is really baked into our country, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, it really is. It was one of it's the first thing in the Constitution: freedom of speech and freedom to practice your religion. Uh, yeah, when you really look at the history and the story of America, you can really see divine providence. Things like Benjamin Franklin, who is my favorite founding father. Um, when you just look at his life, I wrote about it on my Substack, um, but you look at his life and he became this very, kind of like what we would say today is an influencer. He just became very
Right.
popular, and the people around America loved him. And then he became very popular in France at an earlier age. And then later on, it turned out to become very effective in the Revolutionary War, that he was so loved in France because France was able to give us all this money that helped us win the Revolutionary War. If it wasn't for France and Benjamin Franklin's involvement with France and being known over there, we may not, if we would have just sent some random guy over there they didn't know before, who knows if we would have been able to secure all those loans that they gave us.
Yeah, that's wild.
In the
It is God's providence.
mm-hmm, um, Thomas Jefferson's wisdom in the way that he drafted the Declaration of Independence, um, like the man, that one line in the Declaration of Independence: "We hold these truths to be self-evident." It originally was something else, but Benjamin Franklin told him to told him to change it because it was too religious in the beginning. And he told him to change it to: "We hold these truths to be self-evident because it transpasses all understanding, that these truths that we hold are for everyone and understood by everyone."
Yeah.
It is crazy. Um,
Romans 1 again.
mm-hmm.
Just that, uh, if you look at, here's a thing that I think about sometimes, is the ethicists today, like, they probably want to say that Jesus was a good guy, but like Jesus' morality is so much more extreme than any of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you look at a woman with lust, you've committed adultery with her.
Mm-hmm.
Is any ethicist saying anything even close to that? I don't think so.
No.
So, like, it's just he just flips everything on its head, and he gets at the absolute nuts and bolts of morality when he talks about the Sermon on the Mount and other places. Like, it's all about the heart, is what he's talking about. You
Yeah.
know, the outward manifestation can be objectively bad in any situation, but really the linchpin is what's going on inside of you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because like we have two voices that we can listen to. We can listen to our own voice or Satan's voice, or we can listen to God's voice. And there's always only those two. Or I
Yeah.
mean, we can listen to like authority figures or whatever, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's God or bust, basically, is what I'm trying to say. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, I'm not a prosperity gospel person at all, and I think prosperity gospel has a lot wrong with it. But like, there is something to be said about if you live according to God's rules, God's laws, He will bless you. You know,
Yeah.
um, and I think we see that with this nation. You know, that God has blessed us because
Yeah.
of our founding fathers and what they were so wise to write down there.
Mm-hmm. It was a whole line of things that you can't. Just the fact that we decided to do this at the time we did, like, yeah, there was things that led up to it, the Stamp Act and this overtaxation and them like trying to put the boot down and the hammer down on the colonies. But it's the fact that, I mean, the time that we decided to revolt was at a time that Britain had just, had done this large conquest and had just finished fighting this war. And so not only were we an entire ocean away from them, but they were already depleted because of that, and their morality with the soldiers wasn't that high. So that's, what led just to basically a bunch of farmers to be able to take on the greatest military at the time, the greatest navy, the largest. Uh, we fought them with the squirrel guns, and I mean, yeah, we had cannons, and I mean, citizens at the time, they had warships and everything like that. But and then just the George Washington himself being this general, he started out as being a British loyalist, and then he wanted to join I think it's basically the British Marines at the time, and he got denied. And then so literally from that day, he basically said, "Screw Britain." And from that day, he wanted independence from him, and he ended up becoming the greatest general America has ever had, and the greatest president we've ever had, because he's the only president that was truly bipartisan. It was literally right after him, when John Adams became president, that we started this two-party system, and he himself warned us about the two-party system. And so we literally, from the time of George Washington, and I get in arguments about this sometimes because people are, who was the best president? I always say it was George Washington, the first and the only. He was the last good president we had. I think Donald Trump has done a lot of good compared to some, but then there's Abraham Lincoln that freed the slaves, and you might say winning World War II is really cool, but George Washington, there was no one else like him, because everyone in America wanted him to be the king, even though after drafting the Constitution, the biggest thing that people were worried about was another king arising. When they were like, we're going to have a president, we're going to have the legislative branch, which is Congress, and then we'll have the judicial branch. The the thing people were most worried about was the president. They didn't want another king, but they
Mm-hmm.
loved George Washington so much that they would have been okay with him being the king of America. But yet, after 2 terms, he stepped down and he set this precedent for the
Yeah.
longest time.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, man.
humility and the wisdom and just the overall genius that he had in war, I think nothing compares to it. We've not had a president like him. I mean, Trump's the only president
Yeah.
since George Washington to donate his entire salary.
Yeah, I heard about that Trump doesn't take a salary for his presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Not like he needs it, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like it just shows that he's not president for the money. If that
Nope.
makes sense. It's like that's a
Yeah.
clear thing to drop. And
Mm-hmm.
but there is a problem in our political system because for example, I don't know what I think of the big beautiful bill. I have no
Yeah.
opinion on it. But I know that what happens a lot of the time, Obama did this, is they come out with these like 1,000-page bills
Mm-hmm.
that no one reads. And
Nope.
it's kind of like, oh, yeah, vote for this. You'll get a kickback.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that is just, you're not serving the people that way.
Nope.
And that's a stickler for me. Like, I don't like that that's done.
Yeah.
Making these
Me either.
huge bills that no one reads. Like, yeah, there might be some good stuff in there, but you know, who's getting paid at the end of the day
Yep.
because of these bills?
You
That's
always
my
got to follow
question.
the
You
money.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah, I don't like how far we've strayed away from the original ideas that were had at the creation of the Constitution. Um, like, yeah, some things are good. Like, we ended slavery. That was a good thing. That wasn't, and when you actually look at it and you know your history, you know that America was created basically with the idea of ending slavery. You can read it in the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. That's what they said.
mm-hmm.
Today I would say things like all people are created equal, but all men, because in the Bible it also refers to like men was like mankind, so it also included men and women. So that could have been
Right.
what their intention was, but the only reason why they didn't start the country out without having slavery was because they never would have won the southern states over, and so then the country would have never came to be. So it was something they just agreed on in order to get the country started, because this idea that they had, it's the greatest idea in the world at this point, besides Jesus. So the second best idea, and it's amazing the way they have it set up with these checks and balances, and we have direct representation of the people through democratic processes, but we're also still a republic where we're all united under one federal government, but we still have our own governments that can lead us. In that way, you have, it starts, the smallest form of government is basically the individual. You govern yourself. And then it goes
Uh-huh.
up to the family, and then your community, then your city, then your state, and then, or city, county, state, federal government. And so, like we were talking about the other day, the best way to make change in this country is to start with the individual and the things around you. And there's
Yeah,
been no other
exactly.
experiment in the world that has allowed self governance.
Yeah. 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 And with that comes responsibility, right?
Yep.
Like that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean freedom to do whatever you want. Sean
Yeah.
McDowell is really good on this. And he basically says, when he asks young people what do they think freedom means, he says the most common answer, or what he gets all the time, is freedom is the ability to do whatever you want. And he's very quick to say, that's not really what true freedom is. And how do we know that? Well, because are you really free if you eat, you know, a huge cheese pizza every day for lunch and dinner, and like that's all you eat, and then you get fat? Are you really more free if you're fat and you can't do the things that you need to do in your daily
Mm-hmm.
life?
Yep.
No, you're not as free. So freedom comes baked into that are restraints.
Mm-hmm.
And so a purposeful freedom, this is kind of like tying into my idea of, free will, is aligning yourself with reality and what does God's word say. That is what true freedom is, you know?
Yeah.
Um there there freedom is often a thing that is thought about like without consequences, but really what it means is you live your life in such a way that you have good consequences,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. It always comes into like the gun debate. Like people should have the freedom to own guns, but at the same time, you have to realize that that is a responsibility. Freedom comes with
Right,
responsibility. And
right.
we, we can't take away other people's rights because someone else wasn't responsible.
That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what,
I mean, I don't own any guns, but what I can say is, and I'm kind of like, I understand the founding fathers' argument for why they wanted civilians to be able to have guns. It was for a tyrannical government.
mm-hmm.
That was the purpose of it. It wasn't for hunting or, target practice, or as good as those things are. It was so that if the U.S. government ever becomes tyrannical, that the American people will be armed to be able to defend themselves and retake the power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what everyone says, but I look at it this way. I look at the Second Amendment as the right to defend your life and defend your life through, someone wanting to take your own life, defend your life through hunting so you can sustain yourself, or defend your life through overpowering a tyrannical government or keeping tyranny at bay through knowing these people are armed. So the government's going to be less likely to try and impose too much power over you. That's the way I like to look at it. And yes, the core foundation of it is defense against tyranny. At the end of the day, that's the main reason, because the British were trying to take their guns away, and so they knew you needed to be armed, and not only armed, but what it says in the Second Amendment, well regulated, but translated into today's language, that means well trained, well outfitted. You
Yeah,
should have guns, know how to use them effectively, and also, have ammo, have, today this is like body armor and stuff like that to be prepared.
yeah, yeah. Um, and honestly, this is gonna sound so weird because I'm so much better than I used to be, but part of my hesitation to get a gun is because I kind of think to myself, okay, I have a mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's really the only, and I'm not, I don't know how I would feel about shooting someone, even in the case of,
Yeah.
self-defense or something like that. Like I don't know how I would feel about that. It would just be, you know, it would, I think I would struggle psychologically. Let's just
Yeah.
put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to kill someone with a gun.
Yeah. I mean, that's a normal response. If I had to do it, I wouldn't feel good about doing it in the moment. That's what they like to say about a lot of these southern rednecks. They own their guns. They want to shoot people. I don't want to shoot anyone. I don't want to shoot anyone ever. I have guns. and I know how to use them. I'm well trained with them, but I hope to God I never have to fire it at another person. I really hope I never do.
Absolutely.
But it's there just
And
in
you know what?
case.
And so I support the right to own guns. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
personally own one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, that's your choice. So, um,
I don't know where I would get money for a gun, anyways. As far as I
yeah.
know, they're pretty expensive.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably talking about a baseline. Like if you wanted to get uh just a nice little pistol, you probably get one for around $200. It's very cheap, but it'll do the job. If you wanted a nice rifle, you could probably get one for as cheap as 250 to 300. Uh, but obviously, the more you go up in price, just the better it is. But then there is kind of like you call it like a bell curve, where you get to a point where it's like, this is the best price for what you're going to get. And after that, it's just like extra doodads. And it's not really, it's
Right.
incrementally better instead of exponentially better. Um,
Right.
yeah, I
It's kind
always,
of like, I think a lot of stuff with coffee is the same way. Like, to a
mm-hmm,
point, you can buy like really good beans or like water even for your coffee, or like your grinder, or like all these things. But like it comes, and I think a lot of things are like this, like where it comes to a point where, okay, you kind of in this sweet spot. You can spend more if you got money coming out your eyeball, but like you really don't need to buy anything better.
yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, if you got the money, like you can go for the top line thing, the best of the best. But is a $4,000 rifle really two times better than a $2,000 rifle? Probably not. It's probably 2.25 times better than it, but it is the best of the line. Top of the line. So
Yeah.
if you have the money for it, you can go for it. But I always tell people it's easy, it's better to go cheaper on a gun so you can have more ammo to train with it. And you don't specifically need, obviously, at some point, you need to shoot the gun so you know what that feels like. But a majority of the training I do is dry firing, literally just
What does that mean?
resetting the hammer, pulling the trigger, and just getting that feel for it.
Okay.
Yeah. I would like
Sure.
for every American to be carrying, but some people aren't comfortable with it. It's not nothing I would force on anyone, but I believe it's
Right.
it's the best thing you can do just to defend yourself and the people around you, especially like when you have a family and everything.
One thing I will say about guns, though, is I think we should have armed guards at schools.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Either that or teachers that are carrying. That's what
Yeah.
I think.
I think we should just get rid of the gun free zone, and teachers should be allowed to carry, and no one knows if they are. It should be concealed completely. It shouldn't be an open thing, but then we should also have guards who are open carrying. But that way you don't know which
Yeah.
teacher does or does not have a gun. You may just
And that
err
is
on the
the
side.
best. I
Yeah.
really like that idea because there's just been way too many school shootings.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a kid that has a grudge against, Alex, who made fun of him or whatever and did this mean thing to him. And he just replays it in his head every day for like years and years. And then he snaps, and then he plans something, and then he, you know, decides to kill innocent children because some guy made fun of him, you know? So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I'm all for protecting our, but that's another topic, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
because I am not necessarily convinced that public schooling is actually a good thing. Like,
Hmm.
I think it, at this point in our school system, the way everything's going, far better to homeschool. if
Oh
you can
yeah.
afford it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which means that you have to have a wife that is staying home. So you
Yep.
have to prepare, you have to make enough money to provide for your whole family if you're a man, which is
Mm-hmm.
not easy to do. It's
No, it
easier
is
to
not.
do in some areas of the country than other areas.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I think homeschooling, if I ever get married and I have kids, I would love to have my kids homeschooled.
Yep.
Uh, because I just think that's, and Oklahoma, where you're from, they're doing some great stuff with
Yeah.
education. So it's not a knock on your state because you guys are doing it pretty well. You're in Oklahoma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from what I've heard, you guys are doing good things with the education.
Yeah. Things are going good. I mean, we're 49th in the country for education. I don't know how they get those numbers though. Is that just test scores? I really don't know. But uh yeah, me and my wife want to, we don't have kids yet, but we want to homeschool our kids. And as of right now, my wife she's stay at home. She doesn't have a job. Um,
Okay.
but I'm blessed with the job I have. I make good money and I live what do you call that? Uh, I wanted to say low income, but that's not it because I have a high income. Um, the cost of living is very low in Oklahoma and
Sure.
especially in the area I live in. So
Okay.
I'm lucky, but I advocate for,
Yeah.
and I've been vocal about this on X and everything, just the way Charlie Kirk was, that it should be the standard that women don't work. And that doesn't mean that I want to force women into the home, because obviously coming from the childhood I did, I understand that there are bad men out there that beat women and stuff like that. I'm not saying women should have to stay at home. I want it to be an option. I want it to be easily done for everybody. And then if you want to work,
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm not going to look down on you for working. If you want to have a 2 income household and you want to just make more money, that's fine. But I really want for it to be easier in America for people to live the life that I live.
Yep. 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 I agree. I totally agree. Um, I think just I there are some jobs I think that women are just better at, like
Mm-hmm.
nursing, for example. I know you
Yeah.
said you wanted to be a nurse, but like
Mm-hmm.
generally the general trend is like women are better at being a nurse.
Yeah.
They're just better at childcare, that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. Um, like there are certain jobs that like I wouldn't want to see no women do, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
But like I also agree with you that it should be like when my grandpa was growing up, he worked in a factory and he could afford his own house. Where is
Yeah.
that happening in the United States today?
Not very many places.
Yeah. Um, Works in a factory, doesn't make a lot of money, still is able to provide for his wife and a household of 8. So,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. They used to be like the standard, and now we've deviated away from this. I think whenever in 1913, I think is when America really started going downhill. That's when the Federal Reserve was created and the income tax was instituted, the 16th Amendment. And
uh-huh.
I think ever since then, shortly after that, we got the feminism wave. And what they wanted to do was get women into the workplace, not for freedom, not for empowerment, but in order to create another tax cow. And that's why I think we need to get away from the income tax. And I'm hoping Trump can do. If he can't do it, I'm going to have to do it. So we have to get away from the income tax. We
Yeah.
gotta start cutting spending. We gotta, I think the military can be cut at least by a quarter or a third, and that will save us a lot of money. We gotta look at these welfare programs and these social programs, like Social Security, I think just needs to go away. I know it's obviously always going to have these arguments like, yeah, this is good or that or whatever, but we're supposed to be a country of self-governance. And a lot of these welfare programs have, yes, they've done good, but what they've done is they've created welfare slaves. We see people who live on welfare for their entire lives, and then their kids live on welfare, and then their kids live on welfare, and it's like they're not getting out of it. The point of it was to help you through a hard time of your life, and then you grow, but it forces you to make a certain amount of income or you lose it. And then if you lose it, you're right at this, this cusp of like, you can't afford to lose it and you can't afford to stay on it, really, because everything's being subsidized by the government.
Well, so, just to be honest, I'm in subsidized housing because of my mental illness.
Yeah.
And so I do believe in having a safety net, but like you say, I agree with you that you can't have people living off welfare if there's nothing mentally or physically wrong with them.
Yeah. That takes it away from people like you and other people who actually need it. And so we need to figure out how to make it better. And I think Social Security, for one thing, just needs to go. I think if we teach kids from a young age how to invest in the stock market and use that to their advantage, it would be much better to take that money that's being put into Social Security and put it in the stock market. And then we would see people in America retiring at an earlier age. In order to get Social Security, you have to work until you're 62, 65, right? And if we taught people to invest in the stock market and build a retirement, they could retire 50, 55 instead of 65. And so it teaches people to just like not worry about it. Oh, the government's going to be there for you when you retire, but then people are working for too long. And yes, now whenever Social Security was instituted, the average lifespan was 61 years old. So at the beginning, there was only like a very small percentage of people who actually got on it. But now there are millions and millions of people who are on it. So it's at the point now where there's not enough funding to sustain it. So at this point, we either need to say we have to just cut it, or you're going to have to start taxing people more. And that means people are going to have less money for themselves, Yeah.
Well, I think the way to do it, taxes, is to just put a tax on every item. Like that would automatically go to the government and then just get away from income tax. Because we're in Minnesota, we're taxed like 5 times on the same money. It's ridiculous.
Yep. Every time money is exchanged, the government takes a piece of it. Even when you die, they take money from you.
Right. Yeah, it's gotten so crazy with the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about the Boston Tea Party doing what they're doing on a 2% tax, what's going on now? They would flip their lid. They would go, "What? You're taxed that much?" They could not even believe what we're putting up with.
God drove the Israelites out of Egypt for a 10% income tax.
Right.
And obviously we have to have taxes, but the way our founding fathers intended for it to happen was we would generate revenue for the government from tariffs and taxing non-essential items. And so the way I think we need to do it is we need to figure out our spending. We have to figure out spending first. And then we have to start then walking taxes back as we cut spending and we figure out what's necessary, what's not, which thankfully we have Doge that is doing some of that. And so we need to walk our way back to where we're making money from tariffs, which then hopefully stimulates the economy. And then we start taxing things like TVs and, just non-essential things, TVs, phones, computers,
Jelly
and
rolled donuts.
yes, we don't need to be taxing essential foods. Like we don't need to be taxing,
Right.
chicken and beef and stuff like that. Don't need to be taxing vegetables. Right. We don't need to be taxing fruit. But we can tax things like soda and donuts and cake because they're non-essential. And then we probably need to make drugs somewhat legal and just tax them. And then you can do like property taxes instead of being something that is paid out for eternity. As long as you own the property, you're basically renting it from the government at this point. It needs to just be a one-time thing. Unless your grandpa dies and he transfers it to you in his will, it doesn't need to be taxed then. But when you purchase and sell a home, there needs to be a tax on that. And then you can do one-time taxes on vehicles instead of ever-ending taxes on that too. And so I think there's a way to walk it back, but it's going to take a very long time because we have to figure out, because the government has so many of these organizations. There have been more organizations made than, basically there's been like 2 every year that our country has existed. There's something like 380 different organizations that are run by the government. And so some of the big ones we've cut, like USAID, and I think we're going to be cutting the DOE. There's things like that. Like, is the CIA actually necessary? Is the FBI? The ATF isn't necessary. So there's all these things that we can either cut back on or just cut completely. And then we'll get to the point where we can start paying down the debt, because at this point we're about to hit a runaway, and that won't be good.
Yeah.
That's the way our founding fathers intended
you clearly know way more about this stuff than I do, but I'm not really into the political scheme.
Yeah.
Or not scheme. I'm not really into the political thing too much. I think politics is important. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I want, like Charlie Kirk, I want to be known for my faith more than anything else in the world.
Yeah.
I think politics are important, of course. It matters. Policy matters because if you have the wrong policies, then that can restrict a lot of freedoms. But ultimately, everyone is gonna have a court date, as Charlie Kirk said. You're gonna meet the sovereign of the universe, and you're gonna have to decide, or before you die, you're gonna have to decide, what did you do with Jesus? Was he just a good teacher? Was he a smart guy who claimed some false things? What do you do? What do you do with Jesus? Because what you do with him is going to determine not only, in some sense, your success in this life, but it's going to determine the success of your eternal destiny. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I've gotten involved with politics recently. I've just been learning a lot of things. So, I haven't physically got involved, but I've been getting into the scene. And trying to find my voice with it, and so that's why I've been reading a lot of the founding texts recently to try and help me form opinions. Smart. And to that point, it is basically made me want to call myself like a Christian nationalist, because I believe that that's not to the point where I want like a theology. There's obviously levels of Christian nationalism. I just want us to go back to the Constitution and what it was intended.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go back to the Constitution, I have no problem with that. The problem is people, like, freedom of religion, which means not just the freedom to be a Christian, but it
Yeah.
means the freedom to be an atheist. It means the
Yep.
freedom to be a Buddhist. It means the freedom to be a Hindu. Like, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, uh, we like we talked about earlier, the founding fathers' basic blueprint for how they did their government was the Bible.
Yeah.
Um, but when I don't call myself a Christian nationalist, the reason being is I think the label has gotten way too much baggage, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I'm gonna steer clear of this one. Uh, I I I don't have a problem calling myself a Christian conservative. I don't want to call myself a Christian nationalist because I've seen some of the, and I hate to be this blunt, but some of the filth that has been
Mm-hmm.
associated with that movement of just overt racism,
Yeah.
anti-Semitism, kinism, like these things that like maybe it's just a loud minority, constantly talking about these things. But
Mm-hmm.
like at the same time, I see that and I go, this is very dangerous. It's
Yeah.
basically the woke right, if you've heard of that movement.
Mm-hmm.
So uh that's kind of where I stand on the issue. And the great thing about being in the United States is that we can disagree on these things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just have a civil discussion about them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I just think we need to come back. We used to have a Christian culture, and now it's deviated from that.
For sure. For sure.
And I'm not saying like I don't obviously I would want everyone to be Christian, but I'm not saying at any point that I would want to force anyone to be, because I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's how it would work. Even if you forced everyone in the world to become a Christian, I don't think it would solve the world's problems. They have to come to it
No.
themselves, or else it doesn't work.
Right. It's a heart issue at
Mm-hmm.
the bare bones of it. It's a heart issue.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying, like, what do you do with Jesus? That's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he is worthy of your adoration and your praise and your worship. Um, like, yeah, I mean, as much as I care about these political issues, I just again want to reiterate, like, I would rather be known as being a Christian than I would be known for anything else in my life.
Yeah.
I want to be known as the guy that was sold out to Jesus. That's what I want to be known for.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can change things through policy, but if the culture is rotten, right, then it needs a new heart. It
Yeah.
needs a heart of stone turned into a heart of flesh.
Yeah.
And you're only going to get that with a revival, which I think we are starting into that quite strongly
Mm-hmm.
at this point, especially
Yeah.
with the assassination, martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. Like, there is something different about the atmosphere now,
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have said for a long time that I believe we're in the midst of a revolution. And that doesn't, when I say revolution, I don't obviously mean like um, bombs going off and guns being fired. I mean like a cultural revolution. And I've thought about it in obviously my studies of the founding era. If we're beginning to step into a point of enlightenment that was seen during that time, because that was the big thing about that period, was there was this enlightenment. A lot of people changed their minds on things, and we went towards good instead of towards evil. And so after this assassination, I think if we're not in another enlightenment period, we may have just hit it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I had a follower and a guest. She was just on the last episode, and she told me 2 days before um, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, she fully gave in to God, and she had told me she'd been a Christian for a long time, but she didn't know how to feel about God and if she wanted to believe in him. But she told me 2 days before she fully gave in and believed in God. And then now I have other followers and guests that have been messaging me asking how they can start, believing.
Wow, that's great, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
And then obviously, we've seen this call, basically call to the church. We saw tons of people on X, and you don't know how honest they may or may not have been. Like, oh, I'm going to church this Sunday. They may have just been riding the wave of what everyone else was saying, but there was definitely a change.
Yeah. And it was sort of the same sort of thing as when Trump was almost assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like the Charlie Kirk thing was even bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something is different in the water,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, like I said earlier, I'm hopeful and I'm cautious at the same
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we do got more crazies coming out of the woodwork, because the more that freedom reigns, the more the for lack of a better term, the um, tyrants are going to want to tighten the screws on us,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to want to lash out any way they can. And that's really Satan doing that.
Yeah.
When you're talking about killing people and stuff like that and celebrating it, like,
Mm-hmm.
what is wrong with these people? But anyways, yeah, I'm very hopeful that uh we are on we are entering a new stage of what I call revival, what you call revolution.
Yeah.
And but it's going to be dangerous too, I think, because you're
Yeah.
going to have more people being more bold and doing more violent things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we were talking about in the space. Or was I talking to you about it private? I can't remember, but like the change is coming, but there's going to be a lot of pushback because
Yeah,
we're so far back that at this point, it's not like ripping a band-aid off. It's more like taking stitches out. And so there's
right.
going to be a lot of pain that is felt. And so the change that we're wanting to have done to this country is going to affect a lot of people. There's going to be some people that's their last straw. And it's going to, and what I hope is that this revolution, this revelation and everything, revival, and it stays mostly peaceful. I'm sure we're going to see more assassination attempts, if not more assassinations. And I'm hopeful we don't. There's a high likelihood that we're going to see more of this because that shooting that just happened at the church, the Annunciation Church. That guy in the manifesto, he wrote that he wanted to do this. He wanted to do this awful act, but he had 4 plans for what he wanted to do. He wanted to shoot up a synagogue, he wanted to shoot up a church, or he wanted to shoot Trump or Elon Musk. So we basically just narrowly missed another assassination attempt and unfortunately lost the lives of 2 children. But
Yeah.
and then
And
just 2
that
weeks later.
I've thought about that so much, like, because I always try to weigh out these things. Like, I don't want to be quick to call things demonic if they're not
Mm-hmm.
demonic. But the more I think about it, the more I think there is something seriously demented about uh, going to a Catholic school and killing children, and with the drawing,
Yeah.
of him looking at himself in the mirror, and he's like this demon in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, there's something very, very, very dark about that.
Yeah.
And there's probably millions of people in the United States that have something like that going on with them,
Mm-hmm.
as sad as that is. Like I want them to see Jesus. I don't want them to lash out at people, but
Yeah.
this is a dark thing that these people have given themselves over to, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not someone to, like you said, like, think there's demons running around everywhere. I mean, there probably are something like that, but I'm not someone to be like that person's a demon, that person's a demon. But that guy was heavily possessed in sin or possessed by a demon. I don't know. He was a very his mind was very twisted.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, he talked about how he wanted to detransition, but he was afraid of backlash. He never specified like if it was backlash from like his parents, if it was backlash from his friends, or if it was from the community. But we know it was probably from the community because just recently I've been seeing these things come out of people posting these things that say death before detransition. So they're
Oh,
basically telling
wow.
people to kill themselves instead of detransitioning.
The whole point of transitioning is so you don't kill yourself. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How could you be so freaking hypocritical?
Yeah, it's either that or they're telling people to kill the people that are telling them to detransition. I'm not sure, but I've just started seeing it recently.
Yeah, wow. I'm glad I'm not in that corner of the internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what that whole movement. At first, I obviously I was like tolerant of it at first. I didn't really
Uh-huh.
care either way, but then when it came to the point where they didn't want to admit to reality, I it's like, really, do I care if you're a man and you think you're a woman and you want to dress up as a woman? I don't really care. But if it came down to the point where like a medical emergency happened and you got mad at me because I told the paramedic that you were a man because he needs to treat you as a man, like something's wrong there, you know, if you can't
Yeah,
admit
for
to actual
sure.
reality.
Yeah.
You can play dress up and pretend all day long as it doesn't affect me and you're not, talking to my kids or something about it. I really don't care. But when
Yeah.
we get to this point of like you don't want to admit to reality, they were canceling people because of just saying that men can't become women and women can't become men. And that's an objective truth that literally can't happen. No matter what you do, no matter how many
Right.
surgeries you have, you will at the end of the day always be a man or always be a woman.
Yep. Yep. The famous question, what is a woman? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't answer a question that simple, you got some really fundamental things to work through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really got me mad at the point where they started calling women like chest feeders and birthing people or
Oh
birthing
boy.
persons.
Yeah.
That really
It's
made me
like,
mad.
yeah. I mean, it honestly doesn't make me mad. I just look at it and I go, "Yep, we live in a fallen world."
Mm-hmm.
That's my reaction to it is, "Yep, of course." Because of course. Because if Murphy's law, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Exactly. I don't know what needs to be done about it either. I've had
Well,
discussions about
we
that
got to shut
before.
down the clinics. That's for sure. We got to shut
Mm-hmm.
down the clinics where they got these children transitioning.
Yeah.
That's one thing they got to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just allow them to mature, because like most people mature out of it by the time they hit
Yeah.
18 years old. So I mean, I'm not really a huge stickler about what you do when you're an adult, but
Hmm.
like you leave the kids alone. All right, you do not do that to kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Uh, yeah, because most of those people grow up to just be gay adults, not a trans person. But we've now seen this huge rise of trans people, and they'll say like, oh well, it's because it's more accepting now. People will accept you for that. But I mean, I don't really believe that people
No,
are
it's
born gay.
indoctrination. That's what it is.
Hmm. I don't. We've
When
not
when
been
you
able to
have a
prove.
teacher saying, "Oh yeah, you Johnny, right?" Well, if you want to be Joni instead of Johnny, you can do that. Like a kid does not need to hear that.
Yeah.
There's no place for a kid to hear that.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I literally thought I was Batman. I wasn't Batman. Imagine if my parents like forced me to wear a Batman costume everywhere until I was an adult. And I was affirmed into doing
Right,
that. Not as bad as
right.
this, but still, it's like
Yep.
it. Yeah, with the kids, they get so mad about us putting like the 10 Commandments in schools. But then
Uh-huh.
in Seattle, they literally just passed a bill or something like that went against the recent Supreme Court decision that said parents have the final say in their kids' education. They just passed this thing that says kids cannot opt out of LGBTQ plus materials in school. They have to learn about being trans, gay, lesbian, bisexual, anything like that. They're literally saying they have to learn about it at some point in their schooling now.
It's just like, why? Why is that so
Yeah.
important to teach them that? Why
It,
is that the fundamental thing that you want to teach the kids? It's not calculus, it's not trigonometry, it's not English, it's not history. It's that you can be a boy or a girl, no matter what your gender is or your sex is. That's what we're going with here.
yeah, it's
You
so
you
weird.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle's lost. I mean, it is a hellhole.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. My wife was
but you still did you hear just before we wrap up here? Did you hear about the guy, I think it was Seattle, where there was a guy who had just recently gotten saved within the last few weeks, if I recall correctly. And he was walking in a church and a car parks and guys get out of the car and they shoot into the crowd and they kill this guy. Did you hear
wow.
about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that happened a number of weeks ago. And of course you don't hear it because it's a church thing. And
Hmm.
and you should look it up. I gotta get you the information so you can look it up. But
Okay.
um, the pastor gave this wonderful response to this member of his church that was killed walking into church. And he basically says, "People have told me you got to get out of Seattle. This place is a hellhole." And he says, "I'm not leaving." It was just amazing, the courage of this guy. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
I'm sure he's got people that want to kill him.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, we've got missionaries from our church that are in Thailand, and
uh huh.
they're pretty much at threat every day. And
Yeah.
every time they come to preach and we see them again, and then they leave, I'm like, this could literally be the last time I see you. It's literally persecuting people.
Yeah. And persecution against Christians is higher than it's ever been. More people
Mm-hmm.
die
Yeah, they
today
don't talk
of
about that.
persecution than any other time in history.
Yep. In Syria,
And
Christians are being beheaded daily.
Nigeria, there's been like
Yeah.
I can't remember the figure exactly. It's like 50 something like 30,000 people in the last like 10 years or something like that. 30,000 Christians. So
Wow.
that's a city. That is a whole city.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
but again, to kind of end on a positive note, um, again, I want to say the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church,
Mm-hmm.
and um, God can turn any tragedy to His will. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, Jesse. It's been fun getting to know you. It was fun talking to you today.
likewise, yeah, it was good, man. Thanks for doing this with me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate that.
Of
Uh,
course.
I'm going to end off with a quote, and we'll be done. Our new Constitution is now established and has an appearance that promises permanency. But in this world, nothing can be said to be certain. Principles of liberty and designed to secure the happiness of a free people if they have the wisdom to preserve it. Benjamin Franklin, November 13th, 1789.